In the heart of a bustling African town where tradition still whispered through the wind and modernity crept in like a curious child, lived a young woman named Alima, radiant, educated, and fiercely independent. The daughter of Chief Balagan, a respected elder and custodian of the village lands, Alima had grown up in comfort but was never shackled by luxury. She carried her beauty with humility and her intelligence with purpose, often volunteering as a teacher at the village school and helping mothers in the health clinic. Many young men desired her hand, but she had eyes only for the kind of love that sang to the soul, not one that came with gold and empty promises. So when Prince Adewale, the wealthy heir to the throne of Okan Kingdom, arrived with his motorcade of black SUVs, his silver-tongued elders, and his long line of servants bearing gifts, her entire village buzzed with excitement, but Alima's heart grew restless. The prince, tall and polished, spoke of diamonds, estates, and international travels, but not once did he ask what Alima dreamt of, what she loved, or who she truly was. Chief Balagan, her father, saw the union as a blessing, uniting two powerful legacies, but Alima saw it as a gilded prison. One night, beneath the stars and away from the heavy gazes of her family, Alima wandered to the roadside where she often caught the town's breeze. It was there that she first met Idris, the taxi driver. His yellow cab, dusty from long hours of work, was parked beside a small food stall where he was helping an old blind woman with her groceries. He wore a faded shirt, his hands calloused and his smile unrefined, but in his eyes Alima saw sincerity, raw and unmarred. Idris didn't recognize her status, didn't bow or flatter her. He simply offered her a bottle of water, said, "You look like someone carrying the weight of the world," and sat beside her in silence. That moment lingered in Alima's soul like a forgotten melody. Over the following weeks, she found excuses to come to the roadside, and slowly a friendship blossomed. Idris told her stories of his late mother who used to sing while driving him to school in their rusted Datsun, how he gave up his dream of becoming an architect to care for his 6 siblings, and how he drove taxis not out of defeat, but out of duty. His voice held the cracks of pain, the resilience of hope. Alima was drawn not to his job, but to his heart. She saw in him the kind of love that waited patiently, loved unconditionally, and valued honesty above everything. When Prince Adewale returned to formally ask for her hand with an entourage larger than before, and the town prepared for the grandest engagement celebration, Alima did the unthinkable, she refused. Her father was furious, her mother wept, and the elders called her ungrateful. "Do you even understand what you're throwing away?" her father bellowed. But Alima, through tears, replied, "I'm not throwing away gold, Baba, I'm choosing something priceless." Word spread like wildfire. Alima, the daughter of a chief, rejecting royalty for a taxi driver? The village became a hornet's nest of gossip. But Alima stood firm. She found Idris that evening breathless and teary-eyed and said, "I don't need a palace, I need truth. I don't want a man who can buy me the world but doesn't see my soul. Idris, I choose you." For a moment, Idris said nothing, stunned into stillness. Then slowly, tears welled in his eyes, and he fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the sheer miracle of her love. He stammered, "But I'm nobody. I have nothing." Alima pulled him to his feet. "You have everything that matters." Their union, though simple, was more magical than any royal wedding. They married in a humble courtyard behind Idris's small home, with street kids throwing petals and neighbors donating food. Idris's friends played old high-life music while Alima danced barefoot under the moon, happier than she had ever been. But what no one expected was what Idris would become after that, because love, when true, transforms everything. The weeks that followed their simple wedding were both tender and testing, for while Alima had followed her heart, the world around her was not so kind. Whispers followed them in the market, elders looked away in disapproval, and even the school where Alima once volunteered asked her to step back until things settle. Idris, though deeply in love, carried a quiet shame. He felt responsible for the doors that were closing on her, for the honor she had lost in the eyes of many. But Alima held his hand tighter, kissed his forehead each night and said, "Let them talk, our story is not theirs to write." Determined to build a life that reflected their love, Idris began driving longer shifts, picking passengers from the airport, braving night routes others avoided, while Alima began tutoring children in their home, decorating the small compound with flowers and laughter. Yet fate, as it often does, had plans none could foresee. One rainy evening, while dropping a quiet, elderly passenger at an old colonial house in the hills, Idris was stopped. The man, dressed simply and frail in posture, turned to him and said, "You drive with dignity. Not like a man who's lost something, but like one who found something greater." Idris smiled humbly, unaware that this encounter would change their lives. The old man handed him a card. "Come to this address tomorrow. I'd like to talk business." Idris, skeptical but respectful, showed up at the location the next day, only to discover it was the headquarters of a major construction firm known across the country. The man he'd ferried was none other than Mr. Onajobi, the reclusive founder and a silent billionaire. In a conference room lined with maps and models, Mr. Onajobi revealed that he had been secretly interviewing ordinary men with character to join a new project, a housing initiative for low-income families in rural areas. "I've seen the resumes," he said, "but I haven't seen the hearts. You, Idris, have both hands that know labor and a soul that knows loyalty." Within weeks, Idris was offered a training opportunity abroad, sponsored fully by the company. First he hesitated. "Alima made sacrifices for me. I cannot leave her behind." But Alima, ever his strength, placed the envelope in his hand and said, "Go. Fulfill the dreams you buried. I'll be here, building our tomorrow." Idris left for Ghana, then Dubai, then finally Germany, studying architecture, project management, and urban planning, all while staying in touch with Alima through late-night calls and handwritten letters. 2 years passed. The taxi driver returned, not as a chauffeur, but as the director of regional projects for Onajobi Holdings, now a confident man in suits tailored not just to his body but to his purpose. The village that once mocked Alima now gasped in disbelief as sleek black vehicles arrived, not for a prince, but for the man she had chosen when he was still coated in dust. Idris didn't return to flaunt. He returned to build. He renovated the village clinic, established a scholarship fund in his mother's name, and launched a community housing plan that employed local artisans. And through it all, he held Alima's hand with the same reverence as the night she chose him. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of their modest but beautiful new home, Idris turned to her, voice thick with emotion. "You didn't marry a taxi driver, Alima. You married a man still on the road to finding himself. And your love, it was the map." Alima, tears in her eyes, replied, "And you didn't become great because of a billionaire's card. You were already great. I just helped you believe it." That night, the stars seemed closer, the wind gentler, and the silence between them full of songs. The rich prince who had once offered her palaces never knew that the woman he desired had built a kingdom of her own, with love as its foundation and faith as its walls. In time, Idris and Alima's story became a legend, a tale told to children under mango trees, a parable of choosing heart over riches, soul over status. And every time young girls asked their mothers, "Mama, who should I marry someday?" the answer was always the same: find the man who would build the world with you, not just buy it for you. For in the end, the girl who once refused a prince became a queen, not by crown but by courage. And the taxi driver who thought he had nothing, gave the world everything love could make possible.